Congressional candidate for the 1st District, Jonathan Swain is known as a strategic thinker, driven to solve problems, specifically those that affect underrepresented communities and families. He believes his background, experience, and political philosophy make him ready to represent the Illinois 1st District in Washington. The Chicago Defender spoke with Jonathan Swain about his experience, his thoughts on important issues, and why he believes he's the best candidate for the 1st District. How do you feel your qualifications and your educational background, how did that help shape your political ideology as you entered this race?
So, I've had the opportunity to have some of the best education in the world, thankfully, because of my parents. And that allowed me to see what's possible and what's available. And so, working in and around the community the way I have, I just seen the difference in terms of what's possible and what's available and what we have access to. Mm-hmm. And so it is what's inspired me to kind of join this lane of service to try to make what's possible reality in our community. And it's really shaped me. All of my experiences shaped me. I mean, but my business experience, my government experience, because I do have 20 years of government experience, my nonprofit experience, my work with Link, it's all has shaped me to really give me, I think, a holistic view about how to think about community, how to build community, how to think about the levers that help make community better. So I think all of that together has brought me to this moment to allow me to have a very unique voice and a unique perspective towards trying to fix and solve the issues that exist within the 1st District.
Now, the 1st District covers such a large area, but it is a very large Black population in this district. Mm-hmm. What would you say is the most pressing issue right now concerning not just Black Chicagoans in the district, but Black Americans across the country?
Yeah, so I believe that the best way to find out what the issues are is to listen to the people in the district. I'm just one voice that has one perspective, but having gone around the district, there are 3 things that have been prominent in my conversations. One is the cost of living. Rising gas prices, rising food prices, rising prices generally has been a real concern on everybody's mind. And that's everybody from the northern end and the Black end and then the southern rural end. It's everybody's concern. Mm-hmm. The second thing that I hear is people want to feel safe and they don't. That's a second thing that I hear a lot. People want to feel safe across the board. And that's people that are residents, that's your seniors, that's, people that work as first responders. Everybody wants to be safe. And we have to find a way to get to every place where everybody can feel safe. The third thing I hear is this concern about the cost of healthcare, but also the quality of healthcare. Okay. The cost of healthcare is a question. When you go to the hospital, you go to the doctor, you get your bills back. Some people are worried about, am I going to lose my house if I get sick? If something happens to me, will I lose my house? Right. Yeah. And then there's the other side of it, which is kind of this long-standing feeling that, if you live on the South Side, you may not have access to the best quality of healthcare. And I think there are a lot of people that are working to change that narrative. Folks that are working to weave together a strong network of health support within the South Side, and the governor's office has put money into doing that and supporting that. But there's a concern that people, if you live on the South Side and something happens to you, that you might not get the quality health care that you need, and especially for Black women. I hear that a lot from Black women that are concerned about the quality of care that they get, and the fact that there's health inequity with doctors when it comes to Black women saying, this is wrong with me, and the doctor's dismissing it. Right. That's another issue that exists within the context of the Black community. So I'd say those 3 things. It's one. It's the question of inflation and cost and cost of living. It's about safety, and it's also about the affordability of being able to be healthy, healthcare.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that we've identified with our readers, the number one thing has been safety.
Mhm.
And as a congressman, you would be in a unique position because we're in this time where there's a lot of talk around criminal justice reform, but there's also a lot of talk around how we hold people accountable when they commit crimes. How would you balance the need for criminal justice reform with addressing the root causes of violence and accountability?
Well, I think we're talking about accountability on both sides, right? You want to hold those that commit crime accountable, and you want to hold those police officers that are not properly doing their job accountable. And so you're just talking about two different tracks that are both talking about accountability. I mean, and they're related. So police reform and investing in police reform and supporting police reform helps, helps officers better understand how to do their jobs. It helps them with more training on how to do their jobs. It helps us reevaluate how we invest in our policing systems. And maybe that helps them narrow what the scope is of their job so you can hire civilians to do other things and allows them to focus better on what it is. It also helps us identify more quickly people that should not be on that job. I mean, think about it, Danielle. In every profession, there are people that are in those professions that should not be. Policing is no different. The question becomes, how are we able to identify those folks and help them find careers where they're better suited to be in their lives? So I think police reform helps on the one side here. I think on the question about holding people accountable, it's also about how we reallocate our resources within the department. I look at this as a business owner. We have $1 to spend. Where are we going to get the best return on that investment? And for me, in talking to people, one of the better returns where I think we can spend more money or reallocate dollars, let's say it that way, is on augmenting our investigatory ranks. The way you stop people from being criminals is you catch them. And if people know that they're going to get caught if they do something, then it's less, in human nature says I'm less likely to do it. And so I think there needs to be a reevaluation about how we support creating more investigators, how we increase clearance rates, how do we make sure that there are people who are trained. There's a gift to be an investigator. That's a different gift than to be a patrol officer, a different gift to be a other kind of specialist in the department. How do we create an environment or a format that or structure so that those people with those talents who to be investigators can become investigators, and so therefore they can begin to help bring about that accountability with those that are committing crimes. So it's really a two-sided thing. I'll say one other thing though. The larger question of safety is bigger than just policing. Safety is about, do you have a comfortable place to live and not surfing from couch to couch? Do you have access to quality health care to make me feel safe? And what do I have to do? Do you have access to mental health resources when you need them? Right. So safety is a broader question that we have to address. Policing is just one side of that.
Agreed. Now, as you kind of led right into my next question, affordable housing is a huge issue in urban communities around the country that are dealing with gentrification, along with other factors. What do you think the federal government should do to address the lack of affordable housing and this kind of reduction? These urban communities are being gentrified, and you're seeing the rental rates and the housing rates skyrocket.
It's something that has to be evaluated and evaluated from the federal level. And there are a lot of different pieces to this, right? First of all, obviously, the federal government can issue tax credits to be able to create more affordable housing. Okay, because at the end of the day, the cost of building housing is X dollars. It just was what it costs. And if you're going to finance that and put money into that, there's certain rents you have to charge because it just costs a lot of money to build a brand new unit. Okay. Right. So obviously the federal government can continue to increase tax credits so you can have tax credit developers continue to build affordable housing within communities. That's one side of it. But the majority of our affordable housing stock is unsubsidized housing within our neighborhoods. And we have to find ways to close the gap between what people are making and the cost of that housing. And that's where rental subsidy comes into play. Because a lot of people say we don't have enough affordable housing. Okay. So let's dive into that a little bit. We don't have the housing for the people that are making small amounts of money. And so the question becomes, how do we find them? How do we get them housed in places where we already have housing? They just happen to cost a bit more. It's about filling that gap between the various lowest income and a lot of our neighborhoods. Because a lot of our neighborhoods, if you think about our Congressional, you think about other places, the housing stock is still affordable.
Yeah.
It's just that the neighborhoods may not be neighborhoods of destination, at least at this point, or the people that need the housing can't afford the affordable rents that are already there. So we got to look at how do we fill that gap as well.
Yeah.
So those are two things I think the federal government can play into. I think the federal government, has to take a close look at least corporations that are buying up single family houses. There's a thing on 60 Minutes about it recently about how these corporations are buying up single family houses all the country, and as such it's driving up rents. Not so much in Chicago, the rents are rose about 9% over the past year, but in other places around the country, the rents have increased significantly, and whatever appreciation is coming from those houses, which typically is the way people build wealth, have historically built wealth, those are now going to smaller groups. So I think we need to, or companies, we need to start looking at the impact of that on people's access to housing. And then obviously we got to find more ways to just make housing, the construction of housing more affordable. And that's always another challenge, just when it comes to just the cost of labor, the cost of lumber, the cost of masonry and all those kind of things. We got to find ways to do that. And that federal government can help support that in some way. So I think it's a holistic thing. But I also think that we have to look at, beyond the rental side of it, we have to look at it from the home ownership side of it. And we need to address these issues of redlining and the inability for Blacks to be able to participate in getting mortgage. You saw what Wells Fargo did and turning it down for Black folks. We have to deal with these issues of redlining, not redlining, but redlining and appraisals. We'll say it that way, where your home and what it looks like determines the value of your home and what the value of your home will be because of discrimination that's being done by appraisers. So there's a whole lot of things that have to be done with respect to housing. And I think Chicago and then our district is the best place to start it because a lot of the roots of the problems actually started here historically. So there are a lot of things we can do, a lot of things we need to do, a lot of things we should continue to be doing to address the issue.
One of the things that has come up in discussions has been that this is a new kind of Congress, a more divisive Congress, angrier and more contentious Congress potentially coming into this. What are your plans to kind of navigate through a Congress that is less willing, as it seems to the public eye, to work more together?
Yeah. So that's not a problem that's going to get turned around in an instant.
Right.
It's a problem that's been existing arguably since 1994 is when I think I personally saw a big turn with Newt Gingrich and the Contract for America, where you started to see this deeper partisan tide, right? A lot more than you had seen before. I think what I bring to Congress is the ability to connect with all types of people. And on an individual level, that's what I intend to do. Doesn't matter what district you're from. Doesn't matter, what your political persuasion. I want to connect with folks of goodwill and develop relationships with people of goodwill, because I believe that the truth is, Danielle, is that we are more alike than we are not alike as citizens. I think we agree more than we disagree. I'm looking to find the places of agreement. Okay. For example, take mental health issues in our in the first district. Everyone has mental health issues. In certain parts of the district, the response is you get addicted to heroin. Other parts of the district, you get addicted to crystal meth and opioids. The same issue is mental health stress and mental health issues. They just the outcomes present themselves differently. Are there ways we can find ways to find alignment and find unity or find agreement, within the context of our district, and then obviously within the context of America. I think that's a conversation that we need to be having and should be having. But fundamentally, I think what underpins all of this is the significant gerrymandering that's been going on within our country. Gerrymandering on the state level, the local level, and the federal level, because ultimately those lead up to the gerrymandering and the kind of partisanship that you see at the federal level. So that's another thing that I think that needs to be addressed to allow us to be able to find the places where we can more likely agree, as opposed to creating districts where you drive wedges on the two things we disagree on. Right. So that's my approach. That's what I hope to do. I'm one person in Congress of 435, will be low on the seniority ladder, but I can be oversized in my ability to reach out and connect with people in and around the halls.
Mm-hmm. And then finally, what makes you the best candidate for the first district?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think I bring the most unique perspective of any candidate, in that I have government experience like other candidates, and I have business experience, and I have nonprofit experience, and I have, experience working with youth and in the community. So my lens is different than everybody else's. Okay. Because ultimately in this race, Danielle, we don't disagree. I mean, there are maybe a couple issues that there maybe one candidate disagrees on, but especially with the question of choice. Mm-hmm. But most of us just agree on the issues. The question about the thing in this race is you got to pick someone based on their background, their experience, and their approach. So I think my background and experience is broader than anyone else in the district, in the race. And so therefore I have a different lens, and I can talk various languages. I can talk about youth. I can talk about business intimately. I can talk about, government. I can talk about housing, development, zoning. All my background has allowed me to be able to speak a lot of different languages, if you will, around the particular issues, which makes me distinct from other people in the race. The second thing that I think makes me the best candidate is my approach, which is, I'm not coming to this conversation as if I know all the answers. I don't. But I believe collectively we as a community can develop the best answers for us, because we are the ones experiencing the challenges and we understand how to deal with those particular challenges. And so my approach is to really be much more inclusive and centering the community's voice in the development of what we're trying to accomplish. I'm not the one that's going to come and say, here's my vision for the district. I think we're going to do this, 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 and this. Well, something, I'm going to talk to people and say, let's collectively come up with the vision of what the district is. Because ultimately my job is not to be a local governor over a particular area. That's not what this job is. This job is about representing people, hearing what they have to say, collecting that information in a way, and then translating that to the halls of Washington and bringing it back. That's a different approach to this race. And I think thirdly, I'm the best candidate in this race because I'm looking to center us, and I've demonstrated that I can produce results. I mean, here's the thing, Danielle. You from the neighborhood, 79th Street. Does it look better today than it did 15 years ago? Yeah. No. The 87th Street, does it look better today than it did 15 years ago? No. You have small pockets of nice increase. Great. But for all of us holistically, our community is not better than it was 15, 25 years ago. And so right now, this race is about laying the foundation for the next 25 years of true growth. So that when you and I are sitting there, and when we're 65, okay? Yeah. When we're 70, when we're our parents or elders, my parents are older than that, but when we're that age, we can look back and say, yeah, I remember what it was, and now I see what it is, right? That perspective is a bit different, I think, than anyone else in this race, and I think that's why I'm the best candidate for this position. Well,
I can't thank you enough, Jonathan, for talking to the Chicago Defender. The Chicago Defender encourages all of our readers to vote in the primary June 28th, 2022. This is Danielle Sanders with the Chicago Defender.